So, Julie, do you have a topic?
So I have a family member and we can get irritated with one another. And then the family member will want to open up the can of worms and I won't want to because I'm feeling like that I don't want to discuss this. I'd probably rather just push it under the rug, maybe it'll just go away. But sometimes the tension will build up and the family member will explode because they've had enough, okay? So what I need is a way of um how do I deal with an explosion? And I understand I'm not saying I'm not part of the problem, because I know I am, but I need a way to back off and to successfully navigate that. I mean, do I just give that person their chance to say their piece? How do I navigate that without getting into a defensive mode and fighting back?
That's a great question. And so, are you saying that this person, what happens is a trigger happens and then they get very upset and raise their voice and do unhealthy behaviors? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but it's usually triggered by maybe I've been doing something over a span of time, and so it triggers all the other times I've done it.
So yeah,
And then
I call that the volcanic eruption. Basically, it's looking really tame for a long time, and then all of a sudden it blows up.
yeah, and I'm part of the problem because I'm not real. I mean, I'm doing a few things, and I thought I just irritated that person maybe once or twice, but I'm realizing perhaps I've irritated them more, and perhaps like it's like the history comes up, the file comes up,
Yes.
and so it's not just I'm thinking, well, I just irritated you a couple of times, and yeah, I agree, I was not the most pleasant, or my mood shifted, I wasn't listening to you. And it had nothing to do so much with you, but it had to do with me. But that still doesn't matter because my problems are becoming your problems. But how do I deal with all of a sudden I've got a volcano? But I mean, I want to take
Responsibility.
responsibility for my creating this thing. Okay.
So Julie, what outcome? So is this a particular person that you're thinking about?
Yeah, it's a particular person I'm thinking about.
Okay. So first of all, when you're looking at this, you want to ask yourself this question: what outcome would you like? So what would be the outcome? No matter what happens, the end result, what would that be?
Well, when it's happening, I'm not thinking of any outcome, but I need to. I think I need to say to myself, okay, so how are you going to resolve this?
One of the things that you want to think about is at the end of whatever conversation or behavioral change that you want, what would that outcome look like? What would it be like? What would it feel like?
We would both change. We would
And what
both.
specifically would change in you?
For me, I wouldn't. I would not um get frustrated and then get irritated with that person because I'm frustrated with something else.
Okay. And what outcome would you like with the other person?
She would see things from my perspective.
So the first thing is, what outcome do you want? Then you ask, Lord, what do you want? So that's what Julie wants, and maybe the other person wants. Does this person like peace or do they like hostility?
This person likes peace.
Okay, great. So the first thing you want to do is consider this, put it on you instead of them. And you find the right time for a conversation. So some people aren't, you want to make sure that the space is right, that people aren't going to interrupt you, and that you're in a safe place and they're open and receptive to hearing what you have to say. So you might start it out this way. I've been thinking about a situation that I've run into, and I need to apologize to you. And the reason I want to apologize is I realize, how when we get into fights or arguments that it kind of blows up, and both of us really don't like that. Well, I'm going to take responsibility for I feel I've been doing that. And I just want to ask you to forgive me for my part of just being triggered myself and then reacting to you and then having it go bad. Would you please forgive me? And then when they say that, would that work, Julie?
I think that would be good, but what if they say you always apologize, then you go back and do it?
Well, you're right. You admit that.
It's
If
like,
if that's the
all
truth,
I can do is apologize. But then they
yeah.
say, yeah, I don't think you're really sorry because you keep doing it. And I have to say, well, that's something I probably need to consider.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to work on my end is not being triggered. And so would that help in our relationship? So what you're doing here is you're sharing, you're disclosing, you're sharing specifically what you're going to work on, and then you're asking for that missing piece. Can you get agreement on that? Would you accept my apology? And in this case, they're saying, well, you need to do some other things so it's real instead of over and over again. And then say, well, if I work on that, would that help our relationship? So what you're doing is you're sharing a question in self-disclosure that allows them to open up as well, because then they may say, well, now that you're bringing that up, I need to apologize too. And then they might not tell you what they're apologizing for. So you'd ask again for a deeper question. Well, thank you for that. What is it that you're apologizing for? Well, I kind of do the same thing, and I realize that that really doesn't work. So, what you can consider doing here is by self disclosing, asking some questions, admitting your responsibility in it, and then creating the outcome of, I will work on that. And if you don't know how to work on that, you'd ask them another question. You're right. I do say I'm going to change, but I don't. What one suggestion, so put it on them. What one suggestion would you give me that you think would help our relationship? And then you want to listen because they're probably going to give you the key thing, or maybe two or three. And then when that's done, then acknowledge that and said, I'll work on that. Now, the next step to that is your accountability. If you find that I'm not doing this when I said I would you be willing to let me know that in a loving way? And that will be my responsibility to change that as well. Could you do that for me? So you ask a question and then you ask for confirmation if they'll agree. So does that give you some ideas, Julie, that you could work with?
I think that accountability piece is really good. I think that's really good because that's going to make them feel like I'm actually wanting to change.